meantime, I have read the improved version by the AI, and I will not adopt it because it has also changed some content. I think that also has something to do that in those places I didn't write it quite clearly, so that the AI couldn't quite understand what I mean. But nevertheless, it's quite good that the AI writes in a way with rich, with evocative words and phrases, so that I can borrow some from it. Like the AI suggested to say that they met for coffee, and actually I wrote they meet in the cafeteria, in the cafe, but I think to meet for coffee is better, so I have adopted this place and other places, but not all places, like she knew that many others in her field could too, and that's certainly not what I mean. And the reality of it all felt surreal. It's actually a good phrase, but I don't quite know how to really incorporate it, so I stay with Mary Ann still couldn't believe it's real. So I think that's all. Now I will delete the AI suggestions. I have adjusted sentence structure for clarity here. I know that my sentences tend to be long and winded because I started actually I learned German in the school. So I only started learning English at the university to read the literature in economics. So I tend to write a bit in long sentences. They're not so natural sounding. But good that there's AI which can help me write better. So I think that's all. And you can see here just sum up and sum down. With that, I can let the Gemma 3 write a positive review for me or a negative review for my story. I think I will first hear the positive review to cheer me a little bit up after the long time spent for writing. So writing is not really my thing, and this is really the first sci-fi story I have ever written. And it takes quite a long time, and here I have thought, I come from China, so I have thought, why didn't I write a story which takes later the story take place in China but in Germany? That has not only to do that I'm living in Germany now, but also I think the story should look a little bit real, so that the readers won't reject it. And it's certainly not that real to write about much consumption in China, because China is against consumption. Oh.
Here's a positive and encouraging review of Mary Ann's article. Aiming for a tone that celebrates her thoughtful perspective and imaginative world-building. Wow, Mary Ann, this is a truly delightful piece. You've created a wonderfully vivid and surprisingly poignant snapshot of a life lived with a quiet strength and a brilliant mind. I'm utterly charmed by your ability to infuse a mundane morning with such a rich and imaginative backdrop. It feels like stepping into a fantastical dream. What I particularly loved was your detailed observation of the small, everyday details that add so much depth to your world. The robot assistant, the teeth-cleaning equipment, and the sheer practicality of it all are brilliantly portrayed. You've created a believable and engaging setting, a London apartment, a pharmaceutical giant, and a world brimming with unexpected contrasts. While the piece does have a slight vulnerability in the news coverage, the rising energy prices and the looming global crises, it's a strength in its honesty. It's a reminder that even amidst the anxieties of the world, there's still room for quiet moments of joy and connection. You've done a fantastic job of capturing a unique perspective, a longing for simpler times, a surprising appreciation for the value of routine, and a gentle, unwavering belief in the possibility of finding beauty in the everyday. This is a wonderfully original and captivating piece. I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing where your imagination takes you next. Do you want me to tweak this review in any way? Perhaps focusing on a specific aspect or adding a bit more detail?
I don't know what to say. It sounds like the story sounds so real that the AI thinks that it's written by Mary Ann, that figurative figure. Maybe I can take it as a praise, as a confirmation. Yeah, what did I say? Yeah, I think it's unreal to let this story happen in China. Because in story I write a lot about consumption items, and everyone knows that China is against the consumption. So if you read the news, you know that now the US actually actively asked China to increase the domestic consumption. But China thinks that the US just want to weaken China to replete its resources so that China can't have enough for the defense and so on. So I don't think it's a good idea to let the story happen in China because that's what sounded too surreal or not real. Actually, Germany is also not very fond of consumption, but at least when US asks Germany to increase the domestic consumption, Germany would not think that it's that because US wants to hurt Germany. So there's at least a small possibility that maybe in the next century there will be much consumption as in this story taking place in Germany. And actually it's more likely that the story happens in the US. But the problem is that I have never lived in US. So if I let a story happen in US, I may write something wrong, something with basic, make some basic mistakes, like mistaking the capital Washington for the state Washington, or such sort of things. So I think it's for me safer to write something that happens in Germany in the next century, actually. And so now, after hearing the positive review, I will delete it. And now let's hear the negative review. Yeah, and I must say that the Mary Ann is not my projection. It's not a similar person to me, or not meant as a similar person to me. But since if you take any two persons on the earth, the chances are high that there are at least some commonalities between them. So of course, Mary Ann is not in every aspect the opposite to me, but there's also some similarities. And I hope it also holds for you that there's at least some, in some points, there's some similarity between Mary Ann and you, so that at least when you read a part of the story, you can relate to her. Wow, the bad review takes a longer time. I guess the AI is really going to draw me down.
Okay. Here's a negative review of the article. Aiming for a pointed and critical tone. A disappointing echo of a dream. One a normal morning promises a simple, comforting narrative. A woman's blissful existence punctuated by technological assistance. Instead, it delivers a tedious and ultimately shallow exploration of a predictable, almost robotic, routine. The premise, centered on a digitally enhanced morning, feels like a lazy imitation of genuine contentment. Mary Ann's dream, a pleasant simulation of a restful day, quickly descends into a predictable and, frankly, irritating cycle of corporate drudgery and vapid news. The article's biggest flaw is its lack of genuine emotional depth. While Marianne's observations about the wasteful attitude toward Earth are cliché, they lack any real insight or compelling analysis. The repeated references to the easy lives of previous generations are jarring and feel like a desperate attempt to justify a mundane existence. The good sleep argument, presented as a universal truth, feels tonally out of place, given the overwhelming bleakness of the news she's chronicling. Furthermore, the descriptions of Davy, the robotic assistant, and that efficient workplace are bland and underdeveloped. The focus on technology feels more like a superficial showcase of automation and a meaningful exploration of work-life balance or the human cost of corporate culture. Finally, the introduction of Lord G adds a layer of unnecessary contrived drama. It feels tacked on rather than organically integrated into the existing narrative, serving primarily as a distraction from the core issues of boredom and a pervasive sense of apathy. The article's conclusion, a shrug at the absurdity of it all, is dismissive and uninspired. It's a predictable and ultimately underwhelming summary of a story that promised a more substantial experience.
Oh, to my defense, the introduction for Lord G is not unnecessary, but it will introduce the next follow-up story. And I even agree that the whole tone is mundane and boredom. Wow. That's actually the message I want to convey, that I have the feeling that while the technology is advancing exponentially, the social life is actually advancing linearly. So if you read some literature from the last century, really last century, not our century, from the perspective of Marianne, you will see that their life was quite different, but how they thought, how they felt, what they said, how they argumented was quite similar to now. And many problems which weren't solved in the last century aren't solved in this century either. So the message is that in the next century, people will have a much better life, but they will just as unhappy as us. Maybe that's too pessimistic. I think they'll be a little bit happier than us, but not as much as you would think. Oh, I would so happy if I could have the AI assistants, the robots working for me. No, that's not that kind of things. Whew. Well, I don't know what to say. Should I reread my story based on the negative review? I think in some points it actually confirmed my story, that mundane existence or things. So I think I will just let my story in its current version. And is there anything I can anything I could use to improve my article? What's actually vapid news? What's vapid? Like liveliness, tongue briskness, or force. Okay, boring, I would say. Yeah, the news are not really new, but I think I don't need to rewrite my story, so this would be the final version for my story. Yeah, and then I will let the AI generate some hashtags for me to publish it on Medium and on LinkedIn. Oh yeah, I haven't used this function before yet, so hopefully it will work. And if not, I can also write the hashtags on my own. Yeah, I think regenerating hashtags is quite a simple job, but for the large language model or the small language model, it always has to use the same amount of resources to calculate the result. So it can take quite a long time. And so I think hopefully it can at least generate some good cache words for me. Yes, in the meantime, when I improved my story based on the improvement suggested by
Okay.
they're here.
Here's a breakdown of hashtags for this article. Categorized for optimal reach and engagement on Medium and LinkedIn, along with explanations of why each is appropriate.
Oh my god, that's
Outward
wrong.
trending. High visibility. Use strategically. Hash morning routine, hash self-care, hash wellness, hash mental health, hash mindfulness. Hash productivity, hash time management, hash goals, hash motivation. Hash daily life, hash self-improvement, hash habits. Roman to medium
I
specific.
think I have definitely need to rewrite my program
Hash buyer
to
analyst, hash
incorporate a
pharmaceutical
function
industry,
to
hash
stop
science.
the
Hash digital
stop
marketing,
my
hash
assistant
content
from
marketing, hash
speaking,
writing community, hash
because it
blog
really
posts.
doesn't make
If it's
sense
part of a
to.
larger blog. Hash LinkedIn tips, hash career advice, hash work-life balance, hash stress management. Roman 3, specific to the article's content. Highly targeted. Hash Sunday retreat, hash rest and recharge, hash digital detox, hash long day, hash work-life integration. Hash robot assistant, hash AI, hash technology, hash future of work. If you want to emphasize the robotic elements. Hash Reddit reads. If the article resonates with Reddit communities, especially those interested in tech and culture. Hash medium reads hash digital content. Roman 4, engagement focus. Encourage discussion. Hash thought-provoking, hash interesting facts, hash deep thoughts. Hash share your thoughts, hash what do you think, hash opinions. B, hashtag combinations. Recommended. Example 1, balanced. Hash morning routine, hash self-care, hash wellness, hash productivity, hash digital marketing. Example 2, more specific. Hash bioanalyst, hash pharmaceutical industry, hash Sunday retreat, hash mindfulness. Example 3, trending. Hash work-life balance, hash AI, hash technology, hash digital detox. Important notes and tips for using hashtags. Mix it up. Don't use the same hashtags for every post. Vary them based on the content of the article. Don't overdo it. 5 minutes 10 well-chosen hashtags are more effective than a huge list. Research. Look at what hashtags other authors in your niche are using. Relevance is key. Ensure the hashtags genuinely relate to the article's subject matter. Monitor performance. Pay attention to which hashtags are driving the most visibility. To help me refine these further, could you tell me, what's the overall tone of the article? E.g., serious, humorous, reflective? Who is your target audience on Medium and LinkedIn?
So the hashtags are utterly wrong. It certainly has to do that the AI thought that the story is real, which maybe I can take as a compliment, but I will have to write the hashtags on my own. At least it has delivered some notes and tips for me to find some hashtags. So I think that's all for today. That's the last video in this series. And then I will, after publication, I will also add the links to my articles under the video. So see you later.